leaving at once.
Yeah.
It's a really smooth now when they've done the renovation of the stadium LRT station.
Right.
John,
It's
I'd
very
like to
easy to
tell
go.
you guys about his experience this year. I take John to a game, and
yes.
and John I had to go early, and John arrived later. He drives over to the University of Alberta, UA as we call it, and John parks his vehicle there, jumps on the train, and comes to Commonwealth Stadium. We meet up later. John goes, can you give me a ride back to my car? And I said, sure. And we're driving and talking and driving and talking and talking and driving. And we pull up to John's house, and he goes,
Hey, thanks. Good night.
oh, my car.
No, you'd already dropped me off.
Right, I dropped you off, and your car is at the university. And you're like, where's my car? Right. Okay. Anyhow, it's
What's the
lesson
movie?
learned.
Dude, where's my car?
Dude, where's
Dave,
my car?
where's my car?
Again.
Yes.
Or no, and then. No, and then.
That's
So Dave had to come pick me up, and we went and got my car.
You just got more time together to
UA.
share more
Right.
stories.
At UA. Yeah.
That's sharing more stories. Well, that's going to be this is the first
That's it?
CST hangout.
Wow.
Well, Dusty's got lock shot.
We're going to
coming
park
up here.
this cast here right now.
Oh, I see what you did there. Maybe you guys could come hang out some more. I don't know.
I'd be happy to. This was great. Thank you
This
very
was-
much for inviting.
Really enjoyed having you guys, and we will do this more often. Whenever
Maddie,
you
you-
guys are free.
You've got bugs to
I know.
fix now.
Yeah, I got to go do some
And
work
your
to
parents
figure
are
it out.
here.
And my folks came by.
Yeah.
So
Free.
they're here.
We're unemployed, John and I. We're absolutely
Yeah.
free. You could call us this afternoon, and we pop back in.
Just plug
Lots
in the
of
lava
time.
lamp next time.
Oh, I know that'll be work today. I'll get that plugged in, and we'll have that going. We just got to figure out a good spot that maybe even
This
on the
should be
floor right
loaded
here.
with kind of accessories.
Yeah.
I want to see the Rick Pinter portrait someplace.
Yeah, it's going up somewhere.
Maybe somebody can lie on a beanbag chair here in the middle.
Well, we're getting a table here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Maybe we could put Rick Pinter's picture on the table.
That'd be great.
a nice ottoman,
Yes.
eh?
Get those feet
These are
up.
some good ideas.
Ashtray.
Gonna have a lot of Dan Patrick sort of stuff, bobbleheads.
JMO, we're
sort
not
of
ripping
things.
darts in this studio.
Yes.
He's Tom Gazzola, Dave Jameson, John Sexsmith. I'm Matt Iwanek. If Dustin's listening, this was the Edmonton Sports Talk Hangout. We will be back tomorrow at 9 o'clock for the second edition. Coming up next, it is The Lock Shop with Dusty and Huss. Thanks for tuning in.
The Lock Shop.
This might be actually my favorite weekend of the year now that I think about it. Masters weekend's always right up there because you're kind of getting into a good period of time. But I got to tell you, this CFL triple header that's planned for Saturday is going to be amazing. I got my Chiefs raising a banner on Thursday night and then the first full Sunday of NFL action. I mean,
that is a great
let's
weekend,
get
buddy.
it.
That's a
Let's
great
get it.
weekend.
The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout, and Catherine Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Wake up with the Nielsen Show with Dustin Nielsen and Lieutenant Eric. Weekday mornings 6 to 9 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey! Saturday mornings at noon, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for The Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Two guys and a goalie.
I think we're going to see some big things from Evander Kane this year.
You think so? Like if he stays healthy, like 40 goals or something?
He's used to Edmonton now. He's solidified, I think, his place in the dressing room. I think there's a comfort factor that takes a little bit of time.
Two guys and a goalie with Gager, Cassian, and Nielsen. Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District. Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch, Sundays at 8:30, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Oil Stream.
Last summer on the Oil Stream, you and I discussed the possibility of Gagne coming back here on a PTO. He signed with Winnipeg and got an actual contract.
Anytime you can have Sam Gagne involved in your organization in any way, it's a major positive for you.
They love him.
The Oil Stream with Nielsen and Gazzola. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Two guys and a goalie.
I think we're going to see some big things from Evander Kane this year.
You think so? Like if he stays healthy, like 40 goals or something?
He's used to Edmonton now. He's solidified, I think, his place in the dressing room. I think there's a comfort factor that takes a little bit of time.
Two guys and a goalie with Gager, Cassian, and Nielsen. Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch, Sundays at 8:30, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District. Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for the Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Lock Shop.
This might be actually my favorite weekend of the year now that I think about it. Masters weekend's always right up there because you're kind of getting into a good period of time. But I got to tell you, this CFL triple header that's planned for Saturday is going to be amazing. I got my Chiefs raising a banner on Thursday night, and then the first full Sunday of NFL action. I mean,
that is a great weekend, buddy. That's a great weekend.
The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast, located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout and Catherine, Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey, Saturday mornings at noon, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Oil Stream.
Last summer on the Oil Stream, you and I discussed the possibility of Gagne coming back here on a PTO. He signed with Winnipeg and got an actual contract.
Anytime you can have Sam Gagne involved in your organization in any way, it's a major positive for you.
They love him.
The Oil Stream with Nielsen and Gazzola. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. The Lock Shop.
This might be actually my favorite weekend of the year now that I think about it. Masters weekend's always right up there because you're kind of getting into a good period of time. But I got to tell you, this CFL triple header that's planned for Saturday is going to be amazing. I got my Chiefs raising a banner on Thursday night, and then the first full Sunday of NFL action. I mean,
that is a great weekend, buddy. That's a great weekend.
The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler. Weekday mornings at 11, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Elks Call is the newest Edmonton Elks podcast located in Edmonton, discussing everything Elks. Join friends of EST, Scout, and Catherine Friday nights at 8 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Get all the latest news and takes on everything Oilers with Dustin Nielsen and Tom Gazzola on the Oil Stream. Live at noon, Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. Only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Don't feel like working? Join the Hangout. You never know what you might hear. Weekday mornings 9 to 11 on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tom Gazzola and Sean Bell take you on a hot lap around the NHL with Hello Hockey! Saturday mornings at noon, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join friend of EST, Guy Flaming, for the Pipeline Show, Monday nights at 8 and Saturday at noon, as he has you covered with CHL, CJHL, USHL, NAHL, NCAA, and U Sports, plus the World Juniors, Frozen Four, and NHL Draft on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Two guys and a goalie.
I think we're going to see some big things from Evander Kane this year.
You think so? Like if he stays healthy, like 40 goals or something?
He's used to Edmonton now. He's solidified, I think, his place in the dressing room. I think there's a comfort factor that takes a little bit of time.
Two guys and a goalie with Gager, Cassian, and Nielsen. Tuesday and Thursdays at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Catch up with friends of EST, Andrew, Mike, and Kayla, as they get you in the huddle with the Edmonton Elks on the Turf District. Thursday nights at 8, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Join Murray McCourt and Curtis Stock for tips and tales from courses around Edmonton and area with the VIP Golf Show, presented by the Tailor Made Performance Center at the Ranch, Sundays at 8:30, only on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. The Oil Stream.
Last summer on the Oil Stream, you and I discussed the possibility of Gagne coming back here on a PTO. He signed with Winnipeg and got an actual contract.
Anytime you can have Sam Gagne involved in your organization in any way, it's a major positive for you.
They love him.
The Oil Stream with Nielsen and Gazzola. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at noon. Only on Edmonton Sports Talk. Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop on the Edmonton Sports Talk stream. We had a couple of issues right at the end of the hangout, but I think we are connected again, and we should be good. Let's see if we can hear. Let's see if we can check in with Huss. Huss, can you hear me, buddy? Huss, I don't think Huss can hear me.
Let's see.
Let's put on his headset.
Anything in here?
Hello, Huss.
There he is.
Maddie's going to try to. Hey, there you are. What's up, buddy?
Miracle of technology. There's many technological miracles today.
Oh, buddy, the miracle is that we got through 5 straight hours before having a hiccup on the stream. So that's nice. That's for sure. It's been a fun morning, buddy. I'm not going to lie.
How are you feeling? We'll get to the picks and we'll get to everything in a minute. It's a big, big day in Edmonton. Big day for the Nasties. Big day for sports talk fans in the city. And beyond Edmonton as well. I'm sure there was some WSTers jumping in. I know we were. It looked great. Seemed like awesome turnout. Good feedback. I mean, hell of a first morning for you all.
Yeah, really good first morning, man. I will say we had a few audio issues there in the 6 o'clock hour, but after that, it kind of smoothed out for the rest of our show. Then the first hour and 50 minutes of the hangout was good. The only hiccup we had was actually when I tried to connect you while we were still wrapping up the hangout. So we'll figure that all out. But yeah, the Lock Shop's going to be here every single day from 11 to about 11:40, and then we got the fantasy football sort of mini episode that'll do every day from 11:45 to 11:55, and then Oil Stream today with myself and Tommy. We'll be going from 12 until 1 today. So if you have any questions on that, make sure you hit us up as well. And yeah, we'll get the let's get the stream back out there on Twitter, and we'll reload people there. Us, we are 1 day away, buddy. 1 day away from the Lions and the Chiefs. I can't wait. I'm excited, man.
Me too. I had we had a big Winnipeg media fantasy draft last night.
Oh, who's the ringer in the Winnipeg media? Who's the guy?
Well, we'll see, I guess. It's the first time we've ever done this. I got to tell you, it's a super flex league, Dusty, and I was lucky enough to get the first pick. So you know me, I couldn't run to the podium and take Patrick Mahomes fast enough. I haven't been in a super flex league before, and I actually like the fact that quarterbacks have the importance in a super flex that they would have in normal football. So it was awesome. It was a 12-team league. I got Mahomes, and then it came back to me, and I got Bijan Robinson and Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Come on.
I'm in a very good position. I took Carr. And
I was going to did you go second quarterback? Did you go Carr in the 4th round?
No, I got you know what? I don't have it in front of me. I think I ended up taking Jordan Addison. I think I maybe took Carr the next time it came back to me.
That would make sense.
And actually, I think I was the only guy in the league to take a 4th quarterback. Like just when we were getting down towards the end of the picks. I mean, the way I'm thinking of it, and again, I mean, experienced Superflex players hit us up in the chat with some advice, but I'm looking at the guys that were available, realizing that a bunch of guys only had the 2 quarterbacks. And I mean, who's going to be more valuable, a 5th receiver or a guy like Baker Mayfield that could very well be starting and could be productive? I mean, if some guy has a bye, if some guy gets hurt. I mean, there's only 32 starting quarterbacks in the league. So to me, the scarcity in a super flex league has to be on the quarterbacks. So that was sort of my strategy going in. But no, I like the squad. And yes, back to your original question for tomorrow night. Cannot wait. It's kind of the Lock Shop Bowl for game number 1. Your Lions and my Chiefs.
It really is. And, you know, as I was looking through, because we're going to get to more NFL futures, obviously, today. And then, you know, tomorrow we'll get into the Thursday Nighter and we'll get into the Canadian Football League, you know, a huge weekend again in the CFL. And then on Friday, you know, we'll give you our full slate of picks in the National Football League for the weekend as well. As always, the Lock Shop and everything we do here at Edmonton Sports Talk is brought to you by our great partners at CoolBet. If you want to sign up here for the NFL season, just use the code LOCKSHOP when you do, and you'll get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. The NFC is interesting to me. We're going to pick our NFC championships, our champions, our AFC champions, Super Bowl winners, and then we'll get into some teams making the playoffs, not making the playoffs. We'll probably actually start with that. But I had and we'll get to the picks in a sec. The NFC is very interesting to me this year, man. Like it really is. You got those kind of two teams at the top, and then there's a smaller tier, and then there's just a bunch of duds, in my opinion. What'd you get while you were diving into the NFC?
Well, I mean, let me preface this with we've been doing this for a long time. We spend all this time salivating over the season. Sometimes, if you haven't learned your lesson, you go hard betting on week one. And then we get ready to get into week 3 of the season going, what the hell were we talking about for a month leading into the season? Because everything we thought was the case was wrong. So I always tread a little lightly. And I mean, I try not to make these so definitive takes because, as I say, things can change very, very quickly, or maybe they have, and we just haven't seen it yet. All that being said, the AFC is stacked and the NFC is way more wide open. I'm sort of with you. I mean, we look at the top. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles. You got the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, I think they're clearly the 2 top teams. I have always been a guy that sort of faded the Cowboys. I felt that even when they're good, they're still sort of overrated because of just how many fans there are, the attention that they get. That being said, I think they are actually a good team. I love Tony Pollard this year. I think he's going to be a monster. The NFC North, I mean, the Lions are the favorite. Has that ever happened in your lifetime? Like, I'm not sure. Questions about all the other teams there. I mean, I could see any of those teams making the playoffs. I could see any of them finishing 4-13 for that matter. And, I think Seattle will be good and challenge for a playoff spot. I expect nothing from the Cardinals. I expect a 2-win season if they're lucky. Rams, I mean, I didn't think they were going to be very good. And now this Cooper Kupp news is, I think, devastating.
Yeah, that's tough.
And the NFC South, and we'll get to the NFC South in a minute. I mean, probably on paper, maybe the weakest division in the entire league. Listen, I think some teams are going to win games just because of who they're playing. And there could be a surprise team or two in the playoffs. So, yeah, the NFC way more wide open. I mean, I think we're going to see a couple really good teams in the AFC miss the playoffs. And I think we're going to probably have a couple teams make the playoffs in the NFC, or at the end we might be going, yeah, I don't know if they really belong in the final 14.
Yeah, well, maybe we start with that here today. Then let's dive into the teams. So when you go to CoolBet right now, you can still hammer on the futures. Obviously, with the Lions and Chiefs game tomorrow night, you can clearly go bet on that. There's a bunch of player props already. I hit on a David Montgomery TD earlier in the Nielsen show earlier today here on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. But then there's still the futures tab up, and there's so many different things that you can still get in on, and one of them is team playoffs, and they just got every team in the league, yes or no. Will that team make the playoffs? And Huss, you've laid out 3. I've laid out 3. We're hitting on 6 different teams here. So let's dive into these playoff props, buddy. Who do you like?
Okay, well, I'm going to get into a team that I think might surprise a few people because I think that their season could go either way. But the more I dig into the offense that they're going to be running, the talent that they've added, especially at the skill positions, and their schedule, I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to be a playoff team this year.
Yeah, you're all over these guys, hey?
Well, listen, okay, they're adding Bijan Robinson. And again, we haven't seen him play yet in the NFL, but he was straight up legendary in Texas in the NCAA. And, it's very rare now that we see high first-round draft capital put into running backs. And you can just ask all the running backs that are holding out or bitching that they're not getting their money, that they're undervalued. But the Falcons saw this guy as, they had Tyler Algier that was 1,000-yard rusher last year as a rookie.
Yeah.
So they think this guy is a special talent that changes their offense. You've got Kyle Pitts, Drake London, London. I mean, Desmond Ridder, I think there's a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, there is.
He's got the benefit of being in that system, working with Arthur Smith. They know the guy that they have. So I think that their offense is going to be competent. But the reason why I'm picking them for the playoffs is not they're one of those teams that we might watch them in the first round get smoked and say, what were they doing in the playoffs? Well, let me run down the Atlanta Falcons schedule. Home against the Panthers, another rookie quarterback in Bryce Young. Home to the Packers. At the Lions, be a tough game. Home to the Jags, they're good. Home to the Texans, home to the Commanders, at Bucks, at Titans, home to the Vikings, at the Cardinals, home to the Saints. Then they play at the Jets. That'll be a tougher game. Home to the Bucks, at the Panthers, home to the Colts, Bears, Saints. Like, I can tell you right now, there'll be a big underdog against the Lions in week number 3. There'll be a home underdog to the Jags in week number 4. They'll probably be, I don't want to say a significant underdog, but they certainly will be an underdog against the Titans in week 8 on the road, and the Jets in week 11. I mean, everything else, like, I think the Saints will be good, and I think the Saints win that division. But, I mean, is it possible that they're not very good? Absolutely. I don't think Carolina is going to be good. I think their line sucks, and Bryce Young might get killed in the first few weeks of the season. And who knows with Tampa? I mean, Baker's a total wild card. So if you look at all of these winnable games, if things kind of come together for Atlanta, I think that they can win enough to get in at 9-8 or 10-7, even if the Saints win that division. So I'm going to put a little sprinkle on the on Atlanta at plus 105 to make the playoffs. And again, like, I'm trying to give some plus money ones. I mean, obviously I could tell you, I think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs, or I think the Niners or Philly, but let's look at numbers that sort of, give us some value on it. And the other team that I'm pretty high on, and this division overall is going to be fascinating because I think all 4 teams could have a winning record. I think you could make a case that every one of these teams makes the playoffs. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, are poised for a really good season. And a lot of it is Kenny Pickett. I mean, Kenny Pickett going into his second season looked awesome in the preseason. They've got a lot of confidence in him. I think George Pickens is an absolute stud. I think he sort of emerges. You've got a reception machine in Deontay Johnson there. And this is maybe a fantasy tip as well, if you can get him, or if you've got a draft, or if you can negotiate. I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I'm expecting Jaylen Warren to be the more productive of the 2 running backs and get more touches by week 6, week 7.
You know what? I will say this, because we had this Jaylen Warren discussion, I think, last week on the Lock Shop. Since then, I have been drafting some Jaylen Warren in my fantasy drafts because of your constant hype of Jaylen Warren. So you are impacting my stock on Jaylen Warren. He better work out, buddy. I'm just saying that right now.
Hey, I mean, listen, it's partly that I think he's good, and it's partly I'm sort of fading Najee Harris. Now, listen, last year, I think with Pickett being a rookie, they were able to stack the box a little bit more, and it was maybe a little bit more predictable that Najee was going to get it. But, I mean, how many times was he 2 yards in a cloud of dust? I mean, he didn't break a lot of tackles. He didn't have many big explosive plays. That was different when Warren went in. I think worst case scenario, we're in a 60-40 split right now. And obviously someone can get hurt and change everything. But to me, Jaylen Warren's stock is going up. Najee Harris is going down. But overall, I think that's good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they got a hell of a defense. As long as TJ Watt is healthy, he's an absolute game wrecker. And the Steelers, listen, they got a tough home game. I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Niners, by the way, on Sunday.
Oh,
in
wow.
Game number 1
Look
of
at
the
you.
season.
Holy
We'll
smokes.
get to the picks tomorrow. We'll see whether that makes it's pretty interesting how that's just staying at 2.5. I mean, they are begging people to take the Niners right now. The line, I don't know. I'm getting the...
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's week 1, and the spidey senses are already tingling about a few of these lines.
Hey, buddy, when you pick games at, what was it last year, 67% or something?
60. Well, I mean, at the end of the season against the spread, 60%.
And I was 57. I think it's 60, 57. So when you pick games at 60%, we have to listen to the Spidey sense tingle. That's how it works, right?
What I'm worried about. Hey, we've all been on both sides of it. I just realized that the bar was raised quite high. I think my best ever season before that was 58.3. Back in our old TSN days on 1290.
Yeah.
However, we're ready to go on this. But anyways, I think Pittsburgh at plus 140 is very live. Now, with that, there needs to be a team or two that we're expecting to be a playoff team that's going to drop out.
This is a stunner right here. I was very surprised by this.
And again, when you're putting all these things together, you're saying, okay, well, if this team's going to play a playoff team and this team's going to play a playoff team, who's out? And listen, I'm not sure that I'd say it's even money that they're going to go up, but if you're telling me at better than 2-1, I can take the Bengals to miss the playoffs in a division that I'm already really high on Baltimore. And again, we talked in the win total show. The win total for the Ravens is at 10.5. I like them to go over that number. But as I say, if you're going to bet them to get to 11 wins, I think you're better off jumping on the Ravens at plus 230 to win the division. Cleveland's going to be good, and I think Pittsburgh's going to be good. And I think it's not a great sign for the Bengals that Joe Burrow has missed the majority of training camp being out. And I know he's still questionable for week 1. He's the franchise right there. They lost some key pieces from their defense. I know they brought in a left tackle from the Chiefs to sort of protect Joe Burrow, but I'm not sure that they are. Listen, when you have the success that they've had the last couple of years, sometimes you got to make tough decisions and you lose some players. And I know we're thinking of the Bengals as the team that was there in the AFC Championship game, but I think there could be a fall off of that team right now. Now, Joe Burrow could go out and win the MVP and they could be 13-4. And listen, that's entirely possible. But man, when you look at their schedule, and then those 6 divisional games are brawls. I mean, and that will be the case every time those AFC North teams. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's Pittsburgh, Cleveland, or Baltimore and Cincinnati. I mean, that's going to take a lot out of teams. And let's face it, the Bengals are the team that everybody is going after, not just in that division, but I mean, they and the Chiefs have sort of been the standard right now. And I'm interested to see how they react to that. I think that they've got a lot to get through. Could they make the playoffs? Absolutely. But if I'm looking for a team that was a playoff team last year, based on their division, teams that I am high on, I'm going to put a little sprinkle on the Bengals at plus 210 to not be part of the postseason. And again, it's a little bit of a swing, but nobody wants someone to come on here and take minus 333 favorites to make it. Let's get it interesting. And every year there's 3 or 4 teams that we think are really good that miss. There's a lot that goes into that, but I do think there's been some adversity for Cincinnati heading into this season. And I think that if you look closely, their competition in that AFC North is going to be significant, and every game is going to be tough.
I'm just crossing off all my chalky favorites that I had minus 333. Can't go there. Can't go here. We'll get to some of your text messages. If you are listening right now on the audio stream, or even if you're watching on YouTube, you can text us 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. We'll get to a few of those text messages as we work our way through the lock shop today. We got the Fantasy Football 5 coming up at about 11:45, and the Oil Stream at noon today with myself and Tommy Gazzola. I'll get to the one. I'm kind of in that division there with you. I'm gonna get your love of Pittsburgh is really, it's messing with me right now. I'm kind of torn on it because I feel kind of the same way about a full season of Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. So I'm gonna get on the Browns to make the playoffs at plus 118. Not a huge number by any stretch of the imagination, but I just think last year, once he finally got in and was trying to sort of find his stride, I don't think that's, and look, maybe I end up being wrong. Maybe Deshaun Watson just is that guy now. When you're away from the game for so long, you probably lose some of that jump that you had and some of that creativity that you had. But I think he's still just like 27 years old. Like it's not like he's been out from the ages of 26 to 29 or 30 or something. So there should still be a lot of game there with Deshaun Watson. He has who I think is one of the still elite receivers in the league in Amari Cooper. I think Cooper's an absolute stud, and he's got a guy who could possibly lead the league in rushing yards as well. So if Cleveland can play defense at all, I think they're going to be a pretty good football team this year. And so I mean, it's weird because within that division, you're picking the Bengals out, you've got the Steelers in. I'm looking at the Browns there as well. So we'll see how it all plays out. Maybe the Ravens just end up cruising, and we're all sitting here watching all these other teams struggle. But I'm going to get on the Browns at plus 118. Any thoughts on that, man?
Well, like Pittsburgh, I think they are live. This division, whoever wins it is going to earn it, and we'll see what's left of them after 17 games when they actually get to the playoffs. It's funny. Myles Garrett is co-favorite over at Coolbet to be the defensive player of the year. And he's an absolute game wrecker. But yeah, to me, I mean, a lot of it does come down to the quarterback play. And I'll tell you what, from everything that we've learned, as far as I can tell, Deshaun Watson was spending like 6 hours a day in massage parlors. So maybe he spends a little bit more time hitting the tape and the film and working with the receivers, and they will be better. He in that offense should absolutely take a step forward this year. I'm just not sure that there's enough games in the division and on the schedule for them to get in. But there's a reason why that number, what did you say, plus 118?
Plus 118.
Plus 140.
Yeah.
You put those teams in the NFC, and I think there's a minus beside their names. But the fact of the matter is the AFC is a way more stacked conference right now, and that division will be it. But I think there's some real fantasy possibility. Like I said, I love Nick Chubb. And I have noticed, and I don't know about you in drafts that you've done, that people are, even despite where Deshaun's ranked in most, cheat sheets and all those things, there has been a hesitance a little bit for some people to really get on Deshaun. I'm not sure whether that's a personal thing or they just don't feel that he's going to be good. But, I mean, they've got the weapons there right now. I do like their coach. But to me, it came down to them or Pittsburgh for who was going to go in, and I'll be on the side of the black and gold.
This text to the inbox at 780-218-9999. Huss just pissed me off to no end. Bengals Super Bowl, and you bet your money on them to miss? So there's Bengals fan, not like, look, I mean, you picking the Bengals to miss the playoffs is going out on a pretty significant limb. Like, it really is. So let's see how this thing plays out. The other two teams.
I'll offer this. I'll offer this out, and and the chat, throw this in. I mean, go over to Coolbet, pull it up, and you can see. I mean, of teams that are like, who's going to be the team? One team that was a playoff team last year. That, I mean, every year there's a couple teams that's true. Like, no, listen. Granted, it is very hard to predict this stuff. Injuries have such a big part to play in all of this, and no one can really predict that. However, I'm just saying right now that if Joe Burrow is starting this season hurt and has missed camp, I don't think that's a good sign for them. I mean, obviously the Chiefs are in a good spot right now. It would be stunning if they missed the playoffs. The Eagles, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are a team like I did think about it because, again, much like Cincinnati, look at the Bills' schedule. It's murderous. At the end of the year, the first half isn't that much. But if the Jets are really good and the Dolphins are really good and the Patriots always play them tough, I mean, if you're not going 4-2 or 5-1 in your division, it's going to be tough to make it. And then there's going to be a lot of other teams in the rest of the AFC that are going to be in there for those wild cards. I'm not saying they will. And listen, it's likely the Bengals do make the playoffs. But I'm trying to look at one of these teams kind of, from plus 140 or above, that inevitably one of these teams is missing the playoffs. That much I'll tell you. Who is it going to be? Could the Cowboys do an epic choke job at plus 200 to miss the playoffs? Listen, you know me. I love fading Mike McCarthy at every opportunity. I don't think that'll be the case. So I think the Jags are in. Pretty easy division, up-and-coming team. They're not going to be there. And I mean, it's plus 150 for the Saints. Listen, I think with their sked, with their division, I think Carr is going to have a monster year, as will Chris Olave. I think they'll be there. So, listen, sometimes we got to get a little aggressive and try and find that one team or that one bigger number to jump on. And as they say, it's not a big, strong play. Wouldn't it all be surprising me if It's another Mahomes-Burrow matchup in the playoffs or potentially the AFC Championship. But it's a fun conversation before things happen if we're trying to get ahead of something to happen, which is the best way to increase the bankroll.
We are going to get to our AFC and NFC championship picks and our official Super Bowl picks here. It is the Lock Shop presented to you by our great partners at CoolBet. You can text us anytime, 780-218-9999. If you're listening on that live stream, make sure you can fire some texts. We got lots of YouTube chatter hopping in there as well. We'll get to a few more of those text messages. I have two other teams with these playoff bets. We don't have to spend too much time on them. I said earlier, the NFC just looks so weak. It just looks so weak. I'm going to go with a team that I did call out as a fraud a bit last year, but Minnesota Vikings to make the playoffs, plus money, plus 100. And then, I know they got to the playoffs last year and they actually put together a pretty nice effort in that one game and they ended up losing. But I'm going to, I don't know, I'm fading the Dolphins this year. Maybe I end up being completely wrong on this, but they are in a difficult division. It's minus 110 for the Dolphins to miss the playoffs. It's basically minus 110 both ways on the Dolphins. So I'm going to get on the Dolphins here, minus 110 to miss the playoffs. I don't think Tua can stay healthy. We've already done some player prop bets where I've taken the under on him. I hope he does so we can actually figure out exactly who he is. But I don't think he can stay healthy. So I'm going to take the Dolphins actually to miss. The Jets should be stronger with Aaron Rodgers there. We know what the Bills are as well. I know you always say the Pats are the Pats, and Bill Belichick finds a way to be impactful. I'm kind of fading them a bit this year as well. But I'm going to get on the Dolphins in what I think is a pretty strong AFC to miss the playoffs at minus 110.
Yeah, I mean, listen, obviously I've been scarred enough by Belichick and his teams in the past. I'll never write them off. But, I mean, I think they'll do enough to be 7-10. Or 8-9. I don't think it's getting them into the playoffs. I mean, that's for sure. So Vikings are an interesting pick. That division is wild. I think people, I mean, like you said, they were a bit of a fraud, not necessarily a schedule fraud last year, but I mean, they were 11-0 in one-score games.
Yeah.
I mean, those can easily go. But I'll tell you what, good teams do find a way to win. Well-coached teams find a way to be on the right side of that ledger. And I don't think that's flipping to 0-11. But man, if they're going to win, if they're going to make the playoffs, they're going to need to win a bunch of those close games because I don't think they're made to run away with people. But who knows? I mean, you replace Addison, you lose Dalvin Cook, Cousins can still sling it. They got the best receiver in football in Justin Jefferson, and he is certainly a guy that I think is able to do it. But your pick of the Dolphins, to me, Miami, and it's a perfect number that CoolBet is set for the Dolphins.
For the Dolphins, yeah.
As basically a pick 'em, yes or no on the playoffs. Because listen, the Jets are a lot better. New England, always a tough out. Buffalo's awesome. So, I mean, they're up against it right away. However, think about the way that team was rolling when they were healthy. And again, it's a big if.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not putting any props on, don't give me a bet to say Tua starts 17 games. But if he does, I think that they're very much in the mix to win the division if he's there. Now, can you count on it? I don't know. But they are 3-1 to win the AFC East. And I'm kind of pulling for Tua. I think that he's been through a lot. And when he's good, he's been really good. The bottom line is his legacy is going to be defined on his availability to the team. But he could go a long way to show that he'll be around, and everyone's worries about him coming back to football were maybe a little overstated last year. And we've seen that happen before. Brandon Cooks is a perfect example. We thought the guy had to retire a few years ago, back-to-back 1,000-yard season. So quarterback position is a little bit different. That AFC East, though. Well, and listen, we've got these two.
Yeah.
I've got one pick before we get to our winners. And it's funny because the Buffalo Bills, I was looking at who's going to be the last undefeated team. And the Bills have a really backloaded schedule. Now, this could blow up in my face on Monday night because the Bills are playing at the Jets on Monday Night Football. It's Rodgers' debut. It will be, it's September 11th in New York City. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that are going to be going in the Jets' favor. But the Bills, I think, are that good. And they're experienced and they're ready. There's a lot of newness to that Jets teams. If they can win that game, this is where the Bills' schedule goes from there. home to the Raiders, basically like the free space on the bingo card, at the Commanders, home to the Dolphins, home to the Jags, home to the Giants, at the Patriots, home to the Buccaneers. Like, it's not unrealistic to think that they're 8-0 going into Cincy to play the Bengals on Sunday night on November 5th. The other team that does, like we saw what Philly did kind of running the table last year. They had a ridiculously easy schedule. But Philly does start at the Patriots, home to the Vikings, at Tampa, home to the Commanders, at the Rams. They've got a tougher game at the Jets, much like the Bills do in week 6. Then home to the Dolphins, at the Commanders, and that same November 5th, they are home to the Cowboys before going to the Chiefs. To me, one of those teams is going to be the last undefeated team. I think when I look at the other teams that, you would think that we'd be right up there, Kansas City's got a bunch of tough games. Heck, Chiefs are going to be up against it in week 1 against Detroit. But I did look at, as high as I am on Miami, if Tua is healthy, 10-1 on Bills to be the last undefeated team, I think is something I'm going to take a look at. And if you don't like Buffalo, as I say, I just sort of rolled through that Philly schedule, and I wouldn't be surprised if Philly I know they've changed coordinators and whatnot, but doesn't miss a beat basically from last year and gets back to what they were in the regular season before we really find out who the best team in the NFC is. And wouldn't it all be surprised if it's that NFC rematch that we were robbed of last year in the championship game when the Niners lost their quarterback in the first half and had to go freaking wing T or wildcat with Christian McCaffrey because they had nobody that could throw the football.
Let's discuss that, because I think the Eagles are going to come back up in this conversation. Let's get into our AFC and NFC picks and then our Super Bowl picks as well. And if you want to chime in on the YouTube chat, Oil5 Darling says Jets versus Eagles in the Super Bowl because of their defenses. If you do want to chime in on that, you can hit us up, 780-218-9999, or chime in on the YouTube chat as well. Oil Stream coming up here just after noon today. Huss, give it to me, man. I mean, it's impossible for you to get away from the Chiefs in this spot, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I bet anyone else, it would be
blasphemous.
It would be going against everything I believe in. So, I mean, again, take it for what it's worth. That being said, I hit Mahomes 40-1 at MVP in 2018 in his rookie year, MVP last year, Super Bowl. Like, betting and riding with the Chiefs has been a very, very good decision for a number of years. They are going to be, again, everyone's going to be coming at them. They're starting off, I mean, we'll see what happens with Chris Jones. They need to get him back. Yeah. He is such a difference maker. And, hopefully Kelsey isn't hurt for a long time. But to me, like, who would you rather have playing in an AFC championship game that, by the way, is almost in Arrowhead Stadium every year because of the way the Chiefs handle business in the regular season? Who would you rather have than Patrick Mahomes behind center and Andy Reid on the sideline? To me, it's no one. There are some other really good teams in the AFC. We talked about the Buffalo Bills. I know I just talked about the Bengals potentially missing the playoffs, but the Bengals are no joke. And if they're there in the playoffs, that's going to be they play Kansas City maybe as tough as anyone. But again, that is in the past. They do have some new players, but I like Kansas City. I think that they are on the verge of doing something really, really special right now during the prime of Mahomes' career, much like Brady did earlier when he was in his prime with the New England Patriots. And it's really tough to get away. And the best thing about it in Coolbet is the number's a lot better at Coolbet than it is in a lot of other places. The Chiefs, I believe, plus 335 to win the AFC and plus 620 to win the Super Bowl. I haven't seen anything higher than 6 anywhere. So we'll definitely take that a little bit of a better number for it. And then on the NFC side, I mean, this is really, really tough. To me, and again, this is a little chalky, but I do feel like it comes down to 2 teams. Maybe the Cowboys will enter into the chat, but to me, it's the Eagles, it's the Niners, if their quarterbacks are there, if they're healthy. And I think on it, listen, it won't be an even playing field. Someone's going to win home field advantage, so that will come into it. But I think Kyle Shanahan is here and Nick Sirianni is here. And for those of you listening on the podcast, there's a big gap between what Shanahan can do, what Sirianni can do. Maybe Sirianni learns from some of the mistakes that he made last year, like in the big game in the Super Bowl. But I mean, they got a walkover in that NFC Championship game. I have to think that if they go back at it, I mean, if you got Nick Bosa going there, I mean, there's some key players that could change it all. But if it's San Francisco, Philly, which I believe that they're clearly the two best teams, I'm going to ride with the Niners and a rematch of the 2019 Super Bowl as opposed to a rematch of the last Super Bowl, assuming that the Chiefs can get it done in the AFC. What say you, Dusty?
Well, I'm actually looking at a rematch. I think both of these teams are just so much better than a lot of the other things that you're going to see in both of their conferences. I do now, just because you know how I operate, I do have a pick outside of the Chiefs. So, the Chiefs at that number, it's probably the play. But man, I'm coming back around to Jacksonville again. I am. We saw what they did last year in the playoffs. Remember, they were down 27 against, now that's the Chargers, but still, they were down 27, came back to win that game. And if I recall, I mean, they held their own-ish against the Chiefs, did they not? Like, I thought they played pretty well in that ball game, right? So that's a huge learning experience for Trevor Lawrence. He gets Calvin Ridley added to the team. Another year with him and that coaching staff, not to mention the Canadian kid on your practice roster and Nathan Rourke. So that'll certainly help. But they've got some good pieces on the defensive side of the ball as well. And just on the number to win the AFC, it's 12-1 on the Chiefs, which I think outside of Kansas City, the Chiefs are probably, there's those other elite teams, but the Chiefs are on the verge of being in that other team group, in my opinion.
You mean the Jags?
Yeah. Sorry, I say the Chiefs again. Yeah, the Jags. The Jags are, to me, they might not be in that Bills class just yet, but they're not far off. And when you see you can get them at the value that they can, if the Chiefs for some reason don't win this conference, I don't think it's crazy to say that the Jags could do it. They've got a bottom third schedule. I think strength of schedule is 20th or 21st in the league, and they're in that sweet spot where you're getting that weak schedule, but you're building a pretty good team. So I don't hate the Jags at 12-1. And then on the other side in the NFC, I honestly almost considered taking the Detroit Lions just because. And then I was just like, no, it's got to be the Eagles. It's going to be Jalen Hurts. It's going to be the Eagles. So I took the Eagles, and then I actually do have the Eagles winning the Super Bowl at 8-1. So I'm going to get on Philly, maybe setting up the second of a possible trilogy. Wouldn't that be something? That would be absolutely amazing. So I'm going to get on the Eagles. That'll be my official pick, man. I'm going to take Philadelphia here at 8-1 to win the Super Bowl.
You know what? Hey, listen, they're a really good team. They've got a lot of the and listen, how many times do you have a team that went to the Super Bowl potentially get the best player in the draft as well? Now, this Jalen Carter dude on the defensive line, he probably should have been a number one pick. Now, he makes some poor decisions off the field. I think we can safely say that. And that cost him to fall down to 9. But for the Eagles, first of all, for the Eagles just to be picking 9, crazy.
Yeah.
And to get a guy that can come in and be like, potentially, if he keeps his business straight, a guy that could turn into, I mean, the likes of a Chris Jones or an Aaron Donald. I mean, guys think that he could be that good. So he can't flip the field. I just want to say something quickly on Jacksonville.
Yep.
And we hit this in the MVP show. And I think what was it? It was 11-1 for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, he and Jalen Hurts.
Lawrence is poised, I think, to really take that next step. I mean, he's so good as it is. And finally, I mean, a little bit of continuity with a coach like Doug Peterson with a great offensive mind, adding Calvin Ridley to that receiving core, bringing back Ingram. You've got Christian Kirk there. Travis Etienne's going to get a lot of, easy receiving yards out of the backfield. Listen, Lawrence is live for that MVP if they have a big season. And where was I looking at this? AFC, here's an interesting number, 12-1. We'll see what happens, come playoff time. But you kind of laid out that schedule and the argument for the Jags. Chiefs are going to be challenged all year long with their sched. AFC East, AFC North, bunch of good teams, tons of tough divisional games. The Jags at 12-1 to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I think there's some value on that. Like, we'll see what happens come playoff time. Because I think even if the Chiefs are 4 or 5 or a team like the Bills are, they can win on the road. They can make that happen. But just talking about the 17-game regular season, listen, I think there's great value there. I think that number should probably be maybe 6 or 7 or 8. Because as I say, the Bengals, the Bills are up against it. The Jets with their divisional schedules. The only teams ahead of them, I don't know why the Chargers would be ahead of them. That's a joke.
Yeah.
Well, the Dolphins are 16. Baltimore's 9. Jets are 10-1. Like, to me, the Jacksonville Jaguars are a better bet than all of those teams right now. So if you do like yourself some Trevor Lawrence and think that this team is still ascending, 12-1 to be the number 1 seed in the AFC, I think, is another great way to play it. And as I say, I don't mind your sprinkle on Lawrence at 11-1 to be the MVP because, again, it is taken from the regular season.
We call him the investment in the Nielsen household for one reason, and that's because Daddy is all in on Trevor Lawrence. Couple of quick comments before we wrap here from the YouTube chat. Matthew's calling Bills versus Eagles. Brett's saying Ravens versus Eagles in the Super Bowl. And Jake from Coolbet says, I'm with you, Dusty, on the Jags. I grabbed him at over 9.5 wins today at -41 at Coolbet. We like that one as well in a not-so-good division.
Hey, JBM, what do you think about 12-1 on number 1 seed? As I say, and you know that I ride with the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are usually, that's the one thing they have been so good at. It's first of all beating up on all the loser teams in their division. Listen, you've had the Raiders, and like last year was supposed to be this big turnaround. Well, the Denver Broncos were a mess, a complete dud. Chargers are better and are significant, but the Chargers, well, last time we saw them, they were blowing a 27-0 lead to those Jags. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the Jags. And I think, Jags Chiefs week 2. So KC's got some, that's the other thing. Like, if you looking at that number 1 seed prop, and let's face it, it's been the Chiefs over and over again. And that's why Mahomes is always playing AFC championship games at home. Like, the start of their season, they got this game against the Lions. They go to Jacksonville, who's good. Home to the Bears, should win that one. At the Jets in prime time. At the Vikings. Home to the Broncos, Chargers. At Broncos. Home to the Dolphins. You've got that Monday night Super Bowl rematch against the Eagles. At Oakland, at Green Bay, and then still home games against the Bills, at the Chargers, home to the Bengals, at the Patriots. Like, there's going to be some losses on there. If the Jacksonville Jaguars can go 14-3 or so, I think that they win that. They win it, and obviously, a huge part of that will come down to, ironically, week 2, in a head-to-head matchup between those two teams. Yeah. And again, we're talking about getting the first seed. So if two teams are tied with the same record and there's been a head-to-head matchup on that, I believe that is the tiebreaker. But I don't know. Jacksonville's frisky this year, and I think they're only getting better. They are a team, as a guy that rides with the Chiefs that are defending champs, they scare the hell out of me.
Perfect. That's going to do it for the first episode of The Lock Shop on EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Huss, you're going to be over on Winnipeg Sports Talk YouTube right away here. What do you got coming up over there today, buddy?
Yeah, we're going to be firing it up, talking a little Canada hoops. Big win. Moving on to the semifinals. We're going to be getting into the upcoming Jets season with Murata Tash, Scotty Billick's on. Lots of talk about the bad blood heading into the Banjo Bowl, Dusty. So, we're going to hit on all of that, and we'll also get into the Coolbet lines later on our program. By the way, speaking of Coolbet, we should mention, for all of you Coolbetters, listen, if you haven't played before and you want to get an account and fire it up for NFL season, 100% bonus up to $200 when you use the promo code LOCKSHOP at CoolBet. However, that's for first-time users. And everyone's like, oh, it's always for first-time users. Cool betters, you're not going to get a better deal than this anywhere right now. Basically a free $50. 100% reload bonus up to $50. So put in 50, get a free 50. You can check the CoolBet, CoolBet Canada Twitter feed for the details, but the promo code is NFLRL23. And even if you just want to get a couple of extra futures right now, who doesn't like a little free money? So $50 matched at CoolBet right now. NFLRL23, just in time for kickoff tomorrow night and this weekend.
Talk to you tomorrow morning, buddy.
Looking forward to it. Get that Banjo Bowl pick ready.
Two guys and a goalie.
I think we're going to see some big